Identifying.
The king of kings. Chopper for the win.
G'day Chopper, it's your pal Luke. Luke Likes Things on YouTube or Luke Likes Games on Instagram. On YouTube I post travel videos and comedy, and on Instagram I post video game photos every single day. Now I have a special request for you for one of your amazing cakes. I would like to see one of my favourite kids shows turned into a wonderful cake. I'll give you a clue. That's right, it's Pingu, my favourite little penguin. Good luck, Chop. I cannot wait to see what you make.
Newt Newt! Thanks, Luke. Pingu it is, my friend. So what you're going to do is head over to the CakesByChoppA Facebook page. Sorry, I still can't get over that Newt. Print off your template and measure it up to see if you've got the right amount for 4 circles. I've made my cake about 1 inch thick, a little bit bigger, and you're going to cut out the 4 circles because you need to stack them to get the height for his body. Just measure it up against his head because I couldn't put the body size on the template. You just want to base everything off whether it looks right with the head ratio. After you've cut out all your pieces, you're going to start stacking them and filling them with a chocolate ganache. I wouldn't use buttercream for this, purely because you need something that's going to stay firm and hold the weight and the shape. As you can see here with the ganache, it's a little bit thicker than I normally use. All I've done is add a little less cream when making it. It doesn't affect the flavor. All it does is give it a thicker, spreadable consistency, which gives it a bit more strength when you're filling and crumb coating, and that's going to help because Pingu is not a high cake, but because it's so small around the body, you want that stability. What you're going to do now is trim off the top layer, and don't take too much off like I did. Start with the little pieces and then work your way down because you want a nice dome effect, but you need sort of a little flat surface for his head to sit on, but keeping it rounded enough so it doesn't just look like you've cut the cake off flat. The next step is to crumb coat it and give it a generous lathering of ganache. And it looks like I'm putting on way too much here, but don't worry. We're going to get our cake scraper and go and remove some of that excess, but not too much of it because remember we're using this for stability. And everybody loves ganache, so too much is never a problem. What you're going to do now is roll out your white fondant. You don't need too much for the body. You're just going to cover the front. And then I used the sculpting tool to trim off the bottom, and that helped me lay it on so I knew exactly where it was going to go. Smoothing it down all around the edges. You sort of need it to go halfway around the cake because you're going to cover black on the back, and then just trim off the excess. Don't worry about being too neat with it because it's literally, as I said, half the front just covered. If you're unlucky like me and get a little bit of ganache pull away from the side of your cake, what you're going to do is just patch that up before you apply the rest of the fondant on because you don't want it to dip in and all cause an air bubble. Once your white's on, you're going to buffer it down with a little bit of the offcuts and then prep your black fondant with some tylose powder. I just rolled that through and then gave it a few minutes to cure. Then I rolled it out on the bench and left it kind of thick because this is for his hands, and that's why we're doing it first. Wait a minute, are they hands or flippers? I'm not sure what Pingu has. Let me know in the comments below if they're hands or flippers. Anyway, you're going to cut out the long tongue-shaped pieces and then smooth around the edges. Now this is pretty tricky because you're going to flip it over and make sure there's no lines or creases in the bottom, and smooth out the bottom corner as well because this will be seen from the front and the back. Now on the part that will attach to his shoulder, I rolled that out a little bit thinner because you don't want a chunky ridge sitting at the top of his shoulder. Now here's a tip for you. To get the shape of his arms, wrap a tea towel or a face washer in some cling film and you can adjust it to any shape you like that, it just needs to be propped up against a wall or something. I found this was a really easy way to get his arms, and then I just used the tylose powder bottle to do the one that goes down. Roll out your black fondant and make sure you got enough thickness so when you put this on the cake it's not too thin and tear away because you're going to need to smooth it down quite a bit. Making sure the black overlaps the white by a couple of centimeters, trim it right back, and then you're going to use a fondant smoother to meld them in together. You're just going to rub it over the side because you don't want that big lip, as I keep saying. Using a dry brush you can neaten it all up and stop a little tear away because when you cut this fondant over the top, you don't want to dig into the white as you're cutting. You just want to cut away the black so it's not too deep of a cut. Trim off the excess around the bottom And as I mentioned before, grab your fondant smoother and push them in together so you don't have such a big lip going all around the sides of the body. Taking all the leftover of your black fondant, you're going to roll that up into a ball. Now you have to pay attention again to this as well. Push all the sides down so you don't have any creasing or folds in the fondant. Save that all underneath. Roll it into a ball and then use your thumb to hollow out the middle. This is quite easy because the tylose powder started to set in. It's not so dry that it's cracking, but it's just nice to work with. Using some cling film rolled up to push into that little ditch, that's going to help hold the shape and you don't have to use a kilo of fondant just to get this ball. I did spend extra time on this, making sure it was nice and round and domed in at the right spaces, because this is the main part people are going to be looking at. It's his head, so take your time on that one. Using some yellow food dye, I went around and traced the edge where the white meets the black. And I just put straight color on, and then I got a thicker brush with a bit of water. This helped give me that gradient effect that Pingu has around his body. It's not too thick, but it doesn't show up as well on the camera. It gradually got lighter as it got out further. As you can see on the template, I've been adding actual pictures lately for color referencing. So if you just refer back to that picture, it'll help you a lot. Now it's time to roll out some little white balls and measure them against the template. As you can see, I just place them on and pat them down. You don't want them too thick because these are going on his face. You don't want his eyes to look like they're bulging out, so try and get them as thin as you can. Just refer to the template regarding positioning, because as you can see, the shape of Pingu's face is sort of tilted and he's looking to the left. You want to just place the eyes on and then you'll get the idea of where the little black dots go. It's not going to look right from every angle because, I mean, he's looking a certain direction. Place them on, smooth them down with the end of your brush or your finger, and then you can move on to making some feet, which I got some orange fondant, cut out the piece of the template, trim them out, and then I do trim this off a little bit from the template. I left them full for you because I'm not sure how big your body would be, so you can trim it off when you've got your cake made. Using a little tool, I rounded off the edges so it sat flush with the cake, and then I got some red fondant and made two mouths because I wanted to edit in the noot. But the first one is just a semicircle that I measured up against the head. You can do it off the template as well. Apply some water and then stick it down, making sure you push it all the way to the edge of the face, and that'll make it sit flush and you'll get a better result with Pingu. As I mentioned, taking your time with anything to do with the face because that's going to be the main focal point. And it's up to you what mouth you choose. I use both for the video, but I would probably go with the second mouth that I'm making here. I just rolled a little snake and then pushed my brush into the end, wiggled it around to make that sort of trumpety horn shape. But with the horn shaped mouth, you need to let that dry a little before you attach it, where the dome shaped one goes on pretty much straight away. The next step is to apply the arms, but I do need to give out the warning. Please let your arms dry and set till they're firm. I rushed this and mine was a little too soft and it ended up snapping in about 20 minutes. So I would recommend letting it sit overnight to get that raised arm. However, if you're just going to put his hands by his side, you can put them on straight away. Then you just pop on his head and there you have your Pingu cake. Thanks for the request, Luke. I absolutely love making him. And I love making that mouth move. If you want to check out some more cakes, guys, click these two videos. Be sure to check out Luke and tell him thanks for the request. And my channel spotlight for this week is Barnaby Dixon. You need to check out his series of Dab Chick. He's a puppeteer. Tell him Chop sent ya. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you next time.